Hello, everyone. Welcome to Changing the Game. My name is Duren. I'm your host. Changing the Game was created to share leadership insights and inspiration from female professionals who are making a big difference in their industry. Today, I am joined by BreAnna Henning. Bree is a sales manager at Hudl, and she's an elite club coach at VC Nebraska, that's volleyball club. Before her time working in sports tech, she was a competitive club athlete at the University of Nebraska, and she worked in event sales. Welcome, Bree.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. We were just chatting before the show started. I wore my Nebraska track jacket because I feel like it's on brand for today's show. And we have lots in common, right? The volleyball background and some common connections. So I'm excited to get into it.
I love it. I told you when we first met, it's 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's true for 7 degrees of all things Nebraska. So excited to be here.
That's so true. That's so true. I feel like it's even less degree for Nebraska sometimes.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So Bree, I'd love if you could kick us off, bring us all the way back to the beginning. I like to go way back for the first question. What were you like growing up, and really, what was your athletic journey like?
Yeah, for sure. My parents, if you ask my parents, I was never naturally gifted in athletics, and my brother was, but then I didn't have to work really hard in school, and then my brother did. So we kind of had the opposite effect growing up, and that wasn't going to stop me though. I was never going to be like an elite athlete, but you're never going to outwork me. So I had to work really hard to be above average, but I like to think I was above average in pretty much everything that I touched. I played volleyball, basketball, ran track. If you talk to my high school track coach, I don't think she's overly thrilled with me. I was a 2-time state qualifier, decided to go out for soccer my junior year of high school. And, I was doing it because all my friends are doing it. Decided I was much better just running in a straight line than trying to run with a soccer ball at my feet. So back to track, and ultimately decided to not pursue career in college athletics, but decided to go to the university and play club volleyball, which I loved. It was still competitive, better than rec volleyball, and just not nearly as time commitment as going to like the collegiate level. So it was great, and I love being able to continue to work in sports today. So that's pretty much my career journey. And again, I like to say no one's going to outwork me in the gym or in any of my athletics growing up. So
where do you feel like that came from? That ability to say, hey, no one's going to outwork me. Do you think that came naturally, or is it something that developed over time?
I think it came naturally a little bit. I went to a really small school here in Nebraska, and there wasn't a ton of athletes in my grade or in my school. And so, and we were in a really competitive conference. And so I grew up with a lot of people that were really gifted in athletics. And that's kind of naturally where I fit. Neither of my parents were, my mom is definitely not an athlete, and my dad was, again, an average athlete, grew up in Wahoo, Nebraska. And so I always fit in that way, but I just kind of naturally knew that if I was going to make varsity or if I was going to make my top club team, I just had to work really hard. And again, it continues to be, I have that drive, and I think it's a personality fit where I never want to be last. I'm super competitive when it comes to everything that I do in life. And so I really want that to be instilled in my kids too. I have 2 young kids, and I want them to see myself and my husband just working really hard for everything that we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Bree. And I think I definitely want to get more into that later as we get into your role now and how that stuck with you. But before we go there, I want to know how your transition from your studies, from playing club volleyball to you started out in the athletic department at the University of Nebraska. What was that transition like? And do you think staying in the athletic world or in the athletic department, do you think that made your transition away from playing sports a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think so. I started again playing club volleyball at Nebraska and did that for a full year, started my sophomore season, and midway through first semester, I got a opportunity to work at the athletic department, and it's all about connections. I knew Diane Mendenhall. If you don't know anything about her, she is huge right now in the pro volleyball league. She works with the Supernovas up in Omaha, and she was my connection into the athletic department. And I decided that pursuing that was more important than continuing to play, but it still gave me the opportunity to attend all of the Nebraska events. I was the photographer for just under 5 years, and then I was the SID for track and cross country for 2 years. And so it was, again, I was a multi-sport athlete. I enjoyed going to all those events, and it made that transition easier because I didn't necessarily need to continue playing, but I could still participate and get to see those games live, which was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that would just having that connection to the athletic world seems to make it a little bit easier for a lot
Yeah.
of us making that transition. So how then did you know that maybe it was time to transition into you went into event sales afterwards? So was there a moment where you thought, maybe I want to pursue sales instead, or what did that transition look like?
Yeah, so I started at the university as an advertising Spanish double major, typical not knowing what I want to do when I'm 18. And my pipe dream when I graduated high school was to be an editor for a magazine someday. I was in yearbook and newspaper in high school. And so when I got to the university has an elite journalism program, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved it, but I realized that I wasn't nearly as creative as some of the other people in my classes. And so I was like, how do I get more face to face time with people? And our events program at the university was super new at the time. So our hospitality um, degree was kind of something I wanted to pursue. I had a friend that was in the program and had good things to say about it. And I have a passion for planning events. And so I was like, this could be interesting. And so event sales is where I started. And I realized that it's the experience of working with somebody that you truly trust when you're planning some of the biggest days of your life, your wedding, your graduation parties, anniversary parties, big conferences, things like that. And I had a passion for that. Obviously, event sales is something that's not necessarily sustainable once you start to have a family. It's a lot of nights and weekends, and making sure that the things that you put a lot of time and effort into are, executed like you envision them to be. And so when I decided to, pursue the family life, I knew that that was something maybe that wasn't going to be my long-term career. And so how can I continue to do sales, but for something else that I'm passionate about?
I love that. And I think you touched on something really important there and something that I've heard. I mean, I've heard a lot of different directions on this opinion, but some women out there think that sales might not be an opportunity for them because they want to have a family someday and because they want a little bit more of that balance. Did you go into sales thinking like this might be the I mean, it sounds like you did. Like, hey, I want to have the opportunity to maybe have a little bit more flexibility later in my life, or because how did that show up for you when you got into the role?
Yeah. It was a different kind of navigation. I wasn't necessarily looking to leave my current role. I was at a hotel here in Lincoln and doing event sales and truly had loved what I was doing, loved the people that I was working with. I was working still within the social environment, so weddings and all those special moments, but then also the nonprofit events, which I really truly loved, and thought about a career in that for a while, but then was approached by one of my coworkers when I was playing volleyball. Naturally, obviously, when you're in that realm, it's again who you know. And so he approached me and offered me a job at Hudl and was like, "I think you'd be really good at this. It's working with volleyball programs. It's sports technology." And luckily for me, Nebraska, growing up in Nebraska, I knew a lot about Hudl and the inception of it, and a lot of friends that I have had in college went straight into Hudl, working in our support side when the company was founded almost 20 years ago. And so I knew a little bit about it. I didn't know a ton because Hudl was not around when I was a high school athlete. And so didn't necessarily want to make that jump. It was a pay cut to start, knowing that my upside was a lot better if I was good at my job. And so I kind of took that risk of, okay, this is something I think I would like. It's not nearly as many nights and weekends, but it's sports and it's technology and it's still sales. And so I get to talk to volleyball coaches every day. So that to me was the worth the risk of, okay, I'm going to take a pay decrease knowing that my upside is there and it's something that I'm going to be passionate about moving forward.
I love that. I think your story is, I feel like some of the past guests have had this common theme in their stories when they're making a jump. You mentioned, hey, you were playing volleyball and you were approached about this potential opportunity. It's really an example of you don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from. And you're
Yeah.
always kind of constantly interviewing for that next opportunity. Is that how you felt when you were approached?
Oh, for sure. And I think that all the time. I work with a lot of volleyball programs all over the country, and so new things that are popping up all the time is like, okay, is this an opportunity that I would like to pursue in the future? And, making those connections and keeping them. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten along my journey is continue to make connections outside your personal network. So take those mentors, not necessarily even in sales, just how to network with other women leaders, not necessarily even in sales, like I said, but just how did they get to their role and how did, who helped them get there. And so I've really tried to nurture some of those relationships that I've made along the way and along my journey and keep them close because, again, you never know who's going to start something someday, and then you're going to be that first person they think of to take you on their journey with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know where that next opportunity might be, even
Yep.
from a past connection. How would you encourage somebody who is considering taking a jump into a different industry or a different role where it might be a pay cut? It obviously paid out for you in the end, the pros outweighed the cons, but what advice would you give someone who's considering a similar scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's every, situation's different, and when I made that jump, I didn't have kids. I was in a different relationship, and so it was just a little bit of like I knew I needed to do it for myself. And if I was in that situation today, I don't know if I'd make that jump because I have, daycare to think about and all these extra expenses, and so every situation's different, but at the end of the day, you have to have the confidence in yourself to be successful. And I knew that, okay, if I am good at this job, I'm gonna eventually make more than I am currently. And so, and I bet on myself at the end of the day of this is something that I can be really good at. And again, ultimately I will make more money. It's just maybe not right away. But I think it's just betting on yourself and making sure that if the job aligns to your strengths, then go for it and make that jump. And it's just kind of, put your faith in God and make sure that He's guiding you. And some opportunities, again, present themselves for a reason, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, having the courage to bet on yourself is huge. If you don't do it for yourself, it's nobody's gonna do it for you. The
Yep,
opportunity
for
might not
sure.
come along again. Yeah.
Yep, for
That
sure.
is amazing advice. I thank you so much for that, Bree. I want you to walk us through your, career at Hudl too. So what role when you got that opportunity, what role was that, and how did you get to where you are now then?
Yeah, so I got brought on in 2018, so a little over 6 years ago, and that at that time, our competitive sales team was selling our Hudl subscriptions to both high school and clubs. And so my initial role was selling to volleyball clubs or volleyball clubs and high school teams specifically in the states of Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Iowa. So I had counterparts that were working with athletic directors, and my job when I started was just to call as many volleyball coaches as possible and tell them about Hudl. And so we were really new still in the volleyball space 6 years ago, and so not a lot of people knew us as a volleyball company. We started in the American football space, and so educating people on what Hudl could do for them in their volleyball program was really new. And we were just launching our stats side of things, so a lot of people were old school pen and paper statistics. And so that was really fun to see. And then that spring of 2019, we separated our business unit and we separated into, at the time, club and high school. We recognize that clubs operate very differently than the high schools do, and they run very much like a business. And so we needed to treat them that way. And so I had the opportunity to decide if I wanted to go the high school route or the club route. And to me, there was so much more opportunity in the club side of things that I had a passion to grow this side of the business. And so I jumped on board with selling club volleyball. And that first year selling club volleyball, I had 15 states in my territory, including Western Canada. And I was on the road a lot. I would travel almost every other week, and getting in front of clubs was actually something that I loved. Again, it's talking to volleyball coaches and something that I was passionate about at this point. I had coached volleyball in the high school space for a couple of years. I'd coached track in the high school space for a couple of years. So understanding their persona and their pain points and how Hudl could help them in their day to day was something, again, that I'm still passionate about to this day. But it was fun to get on the road, see new places. I can't ever say that I would have gone to Boise, Idaho without something like Hudl taking me there, which is fun. And then was really successful in that the first year. Made the transition in 2020 to management, and was overseeing a team that was selling volleyball again specifically, and it was COVID, so that was really hard. I will never regret going through that. It's really challenging, and I think it made me a better leader to be able to navigate managing a team completely remote because of COVID. And then after COVID, bringing people back and having people in a hybrid situation has just been really challenging. And now I'm in my fourth year as a manager and have learned a lot over the last 3 years. And our team has also evolved. We're now in the emerging markets, is what our competitive sales team is called, because we encompass all these different markets that are emerging for us. We just don't know necessarily what works from year to year. So we're constantly changing what our team makeup is. And I love that as a manager. It challenges me every day to figure out, okay, what worked last year is probably not going to work this year. And how do I dive into what's challenging for my reps? And everyone works differently. And so constantly evolving how I work is kind of where I'm at today. And again, I love that my day to day, my year to year has been a different makeup every time.
Yeah. It sounds like adaptability, excuse me, is really important in your day-to-day, in your role as a leader. Is that a quality that you look for in your team when you're hiring? Or really, what are those key characteristics that you're looking for when adding people to your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. For sure, you have to be able to kind of roll with the punches. And I was watching one of your other episodes, and what I really took away from one of the quotes that was said was, it's never rejection, but it's just a redirection. And in sales specifically, and especially in our market, where we get told no 4 out of 5 times. And so being able to pick yourself up and not take it personally and move on to the next person that's going to say yes is going to be huge for us. And I can tell that a lot in an interview. The energy people bring is kind of what I look for, those intangibles. I can teach you how to sell Hudl any day, but I
Yeah.
can't teach you how to bring the energy when you're talking to a customer, or if you're at a booth, or trying to get people to come talk to you. And I can't teach you how to make me excited about what you're selling. So that's definitely something that I look for. And I think you can kind of gauge that on a first interview with people. And if they don't have it, it's kind of something that you're like, you might be a good fit, but maybe for a different role.
Right. Right. How do you coach your team then through some of that rejection that is inevitable in sales?
Yeah. I coach it a lot too on, it's never no, it's just a not right now, because we've seen a lot of people that I had initially talked to in 2018 or 2019 when I started at Hudl, and they didn't want anything to do with us. They loved the way that they worked, which is fine. And it's taken, years for them to get bought into what we provide to them as an organization. And so it's keeping that door open, keeping those relationships. Like I said, if you're happy in your role, but you have this great opportunity, okay, I'm going to keep you warm, because you never know when I might need you in the future. So I coach my reps on that a lot. Is we sell ourselves more than anything. We sell a great product, but at the end of the day, it's they get to work with you every day. So make sure that when they think of Hudl, they think of BreAnna Henning, and she's gonna get it done for me no matter what. Even if I don't want to use her product right now, I know that if I have a question, I can go back to her in the future if this is something that I want to pursue later.
Yeah, it's almost like it's developing the relationship, being a consultant or a confidant rather than just, hey, I'm here to sell you a product.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in our space too, the emerging markets, we definitely take more of a consultative approach of, okay, not we don't have cookie cutter packages that work for every single club. And we have clubs that have 3 teams. We have clubs that have 300 teams. And we have clubs that are for profit and not for profit. And so we just have such a different mix of people that we're talking to every day. So how can we, set a standard of, this is what you need to fit in, and that doesn't make sense. And so, okay, how can I make sure that what you're purchasing from us every single day makes sense for this year, but also helps you grow in the future? And so, yeah, it's again trusting that we have their best interest in mind, and making sure that when they're investing in Hudl, they're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah, it seems like having the ability to really listen and ask good questions to your prospects is super important because they have such
Yep.
unique needs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was on a call actually, about an hour ago with a customer, and to me, it's if you feel like you're asking enough questions, you need to ask 5 more because there's things that they might not be telling you, and if we get to, the buying time and they're like, "Oh, I can't buy because of XYZ," that's
Right.
definitely a red flag to me of we should have uncovered that in the discovery phase. We need to really dig deep of what's important to them as an organization, what makes them tick, what keeps them up at night, and again, how does Hudl fit into that to help them be successful as an organization?
Yeah. I'm just curious about your process. How did you really develop that mindset? Like, hey, we need to ask 5 more questions. How did you get good at discovery? And for the candidates out there that are listening, what was your experience like with that? So that maybe
Yeah,
they can take some tips away.
yeah. It was a lot of rejection and kind of figuring out, okay, why are these people rejecting me and uncovering, and again, COVID threw a wrench in everything. And so the goals of clubs and the needs of clubs changed a lot over the last 4 years, ever since that happened. And unfortunately, COVID happened in the middle of club volleyball season. And I mean, I had to pivot a lot of what my sales mindset was of, okay, this is how we can help them. But the mindset for me was, okay, if they are an organization trying to get their kids recruited and seen, and coaches can't go to tournaments because of COVID, how can Hudl provide a service for them to be seen on a video platform where the coaches don't need to be in the gym for that? And so there was a lot of trial and error with what was going to stick, what wasn't going to stick. And again, like I said, a lot of rejection that I learned from and continue to learn from every day of, again, working with the nonprofit clubs versus the for-profit clubs, or it's a different beast and they have different goals. And again, we don't know what those goals are unless we ask those good questions. And we use a service called Chorus to watch a lot of our calls with people. And so I dig into a lot of, the pain points for our team, and being able to coach either live on calls or post calls is really important to me, because I can't see if we have a rep that's struggling to, make sales, what is it about their workflow that they're struggling with? And so it's really important for me to get on the road with them and ask those good questions, because I know that that's what helped me as a rep and as a sales rep in my territory is, okay, I need some coaching on what am I doing wrong here to not close these sales. So that's kind of the evolution. And again, COVID was a blessing and a curse to what we needed to provide to our organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious too. I want to take a step kind of like laterally. At the same time, you're coaching volleyball, club
Mhm.
volleyball. So, kind of two-part question. How long have you been coaching club volleyball? And do you feel that there's a lot of transfer? My gut is yes, but there's a lot of transferable leadership skills between coaching club volleyball to coaching your team in sales. Yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I've taken the last year and a half off of coaching because of my kids, but I have done 2 full seasons with VCN, and the organization's great. I absolutely love them. I have an email in my inbox, sorry, Maggie, asking about my coaching plans for this coming year. I will get back to you. Um, and I'm truly passionate about it. I love the sales leadership side more than the rep side is it's really satisfying for me to coach somebody, "Hey, try this," and see it succeed and then have it result in a sale. Same thing on the court is, okay, I get to use Hudl, which is great, every single day in coaching my kids, and when I'm coaching 18s, and so a lot of my kids have already been recruited, so we really get to focus on perfecting their game and, really digging into why certain offensive sets aren't working, why we're not being able to side out and serve receive, and getting into that nitty-gritty and coaching them on those skill sets and then being able to see them succeed is really awesome. And a lot of that is transferable, obviously, to what I do on a day-to-day in the sales side of things, and I coach both my teams, volleyball and, my sales team. The 2 things that we can control every single day are attitude and effort, and
Yep.
again, because I was never gonna be the elite athlete, I don't want anyone to outwork me in the gym, outwork me, making sales, and so everyone that I have on my team is gonna work really hard, and that's what you can control every day. I can't control if you can't put a ball away, if you're swinging around a drill and you can't put a ball away, that's fine, but you're going to continue to work as hard as you can to make that happen. And same thing in sales is we got to, again, and you're going to get told no more than you're going to get told yes. And so I just need you to make sure that your attitude is in check, and we're going to just continue grinding until we can make those sales. And so a lot of it's transferable. And again, I love that I get to use Hudl in my coaching life. And it's fun because, again, the culture at the club that I am associated with is really, they thrive in the culture that they build, and they teach kids the same way at 12s as they do as 18s. So, by the time they get to the 18s, they know how to run certain drills and things like that. And that's how I want my sales team. I want them to, if they come work for me, I want them to take that same effort. If they get transferred to somebody else's team, they know that they're getting a quality kid and rep because of the way that we've coached on things over the last year.
Yeah, I love that you said the two biggest things are attitude and effort. Yes, performance is important, but at the end of the day, like if you don't have those two key pieces, it's the performance one probably won't be there.
Yep.
But it's easier to go to bat for people who have that attitude and effort for sure.
Yep,
when that shows up.
for sure. Yep, for sure.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Bree. We only have like 4 minutes left. It always goes by so quick. So I want to get to a couple more questions before we wrap. I would love to know what advice you have for anyone looking to break into sales, but even specifically the sports tech industry. Any advice there?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good question. I think sales just in general is something that you can't be really good at sales unless you're passionate about what you're selling. Either the culture, the organization, whatever it is, make sure that it aligns with your values and what you can be excited about every single day. And I think that's why I have been successful at Hudl, and why I've been here for over 6 years is I believe in the product that we put out every day. And our senior leadership does a great job of making sure that we feel heard as employees and continuing to make, our work-life balance great. And if you're getting into sales, make sure it's something that you're ready to work hard, really, hard for. And I don't think a lot of people understand that if you're not making sales, you're probably not making a lot of money. But if you're really good at your job, there's a lot of money to be made in sales. And so I think you have to be, again, willing to put in the work. And my husband also works at Hudl, and he is on the road right now doing school visits. And so it's something that we know is hard on our family, but in the long run, that's something that we're both really passionate about and competitive. And at the end of the day, we just want to make, a really successful career out of this. So that's something that's needed to be superior in our roles, I would say.
Yeah. I saw your post a couple weeks back with you and your husband, your family all in your Hudl shirts. I think that's very cool that your family was built on Hudl.
Yep, which is awesome. I mean, we're not the only Hudl family at our organization. We're actually one of many, which is really cool. So, and again, we hire a lot of like-minded competitive people, especially on our sales team. And so it's natural for people to find those connections and find people that they really connect with. My boss and his wife are also a Hudl couple that have 2 young kids. And so it's just fun to see those people. And a lot of my good friends I've met through working at Hudl. And again, it's that like-mindedness, and hiring the right people is really key.
Yeah, I think that's so important, getting it right in the hiring process, but also as a candidate, knowing what you value and finding an organization that aligns with that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, 1 minute left. Final question for you. Since the show, and I hope it's not too similar or redundant to what I just asked, but since the show was founded on the premise of encouraging women to consider career in sales, I think it's only fitting if we heard your advice to women who are thinking about maybe making an endeavor into the sales industry.
Yeah, I would say find a good mentor that is in the sales. It doesn't necessarily need to be sports tech, just somebody that's being really successful. I'm lucky enough at Hudl, there's a good chunk of us sales leadership and just successful women in sales at our company. And so I get to bounce ideas off of them. How are they handling certain situations? And continue to find those mentors that are going to push you. And again, I'm never going to be the smartest person in the room, and I don't want to be. And I want to be surrounded by people that are going to push me to be better as a leader, and then push me to, continue to make more sales and drive the business of Hudl so we can continue to be, the elite sports tech company in the world. And yeah, just find those people that you can, surround yourself with that are going to make you a better sales leader.
I love it. I seriously love it. And you mentioned, hey, don't be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, find a different room.
Yeah, absolutely. Jump out the window because you want to be in a different room than what you're currently in, for sure.
I love it. Thank you so much, Bree, for your time. This was amazing. It always goes by way too fast. Can I encourage anyone listening today to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yes, of course. Yep, always.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.